Okay, so we're going to have a look at Kelly kettles, folks, or storm kettles is the sort of generic term for them. And I've done all my preparation before, and you can see I've got my health and safety gear as well. I've got my burns kit in there in the first aid pack. I've got a bucket of water. I've also got a fire blanket. I've also got a pair of gauntlets here as well for handling the hot stuff. Okay. Materials are all prepared there. Some thin kindling, some thicker stuff, a bit of birch bark. I've got my fire steel, which is the thing that creates the sparks, if you can remember from fire lighting. And hope that's good. Them sparks are going to land in a bit of tin there, which today we're using with cotton wool. Okay, and we're going to add all that to the mix in the base of the storm kettle, which is this kind of bowl affair. And we light a small fire in the base, and then we can put on the actual kettle segment of it. And the kettle segment is like a chimney with a jacket of water around the outside, so you can actually see down there. That's where the fire rises up through the actual Kelly kettle. And where I had my hand over there, that's where the water goes. Lots of different makes of storm kettle on the market. This one's a Geely kettle, and it's got a cap with a whistle that sounds like a kettle, and it's obviously very loose. Okay, so there's no chance that could pressurize and pop off. Some of the older storm kettles have got like a cork bung in them. The idea being is that you carry the water around in the kettle to start with, and then when you want to fire it up, you pull the bung out and you fire up the kettle. Of course, there's so many different designs around nowadays that you end up not knowing which one's which. So the best rule of thumb I've found if you're teaching this stuff away to other people is to just basically go by, don't boil it with the cork in. That is the best advice I can give if you're going to show it off. If you know your own kit, you know what works for you, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. So we've got that set up ready to rock and roll, but that doesn't go on just yet. We're going to build a little fire in here first. So we're going to take a bit of tinder, in this case a handful of cotton wool. We're going to shred it up into like a big loose bundle, fluffy bundle like this. Okay, plenty of it. So that's going to catch the sparks that there. But if you just light that now, as you know, it'll just burn and it'll be gone in no time. So I'm going to mix that up with a little bit of birch bark. That's going to go in there. You can put dry grasses in here as well if you've got any of that laid around the place. As usual, it's raining, so we haven't got much in the way of dry stuff. So I've prepared most of this beforehand and fetched it along with me. And with all kind of fire lighting techniques in our situation, it's the good preparation is key. The more preparation you can do, bring along the dry stuff in advance, you're going to be successful. If you're just going to pick it up around the place on a day like today, you're going to struggle. So preparation is key with fire lighting. I would say along the lines of about 80% of fire lighting technique is preparation. 10% skill, the other 10% is a bit of luck that comes in as well from the outside. So I've created a little tinder board at the bottom with a little bit of birch bark, as you've seen there. Got my fire lighting steel there, my little sticks, my thicker sticks, got a mixture of those. I'm actually going to snap a few of those longer ones in half so they can drop on there. Okay. We're going to go on top of here, we're going to build a small fire, and once the fire is establishing itself, we'll put the kettle part. You'll notice that there's a hole in the side there. Okay, if you've got a breeze or a wind coming up behind you, put that into the breeze, and that will actually allow more circulation, if you like, of the oxygen that's needed in the fire. So, we're going to light the tinder ball now with our fire steel. If you remember, the fire steels, you hold them, the actual the rod in your helper hand, and I can rest my index finger underneath the actual rod itself, and I use the actual scraper part to rub down there. Okay? Some folks actually pull away rather than this way. It's entirely your shout how you do it. At this stage, you don't need your glove on, otherwise it's just too fumbly and you're just going to make a mistake as you go on. So get your fire steel in the bottom of your fire, light your cotton wool. Okay? Apply a few little bits of fuel to your fire. Okay, allow them to catch before you do anything else. throw a few bits of that in there. Ideally what you'll get is your birch bark or catch, which is really what we've got in our British woodlands, which is sent from the heavens really. It's ideal for fire lighting. We'll get a little bit of the thinner stuff on there. Let it build. Build your fire in the base until it's established. Okay. If you're worried about your hand, if you feel like you're being vulnerable, if you feel like you might catch your hand and burn it, then of course get your gauntlet on as you're feeding the fire. Okay, but for now I'm pretty confident that that's going to be alright. There's a number of different ways of getting the kettle section on there now. So once that's established, we want the kettle bit over the flames. Okay, you could, without your gloves, you take the kettle either side of the handle like this, and then just lift it onto the fire, and instantly you'll see flames starting to rise out of the chimney. And that's why we don't put it on like a bucket of paint or a bucket of water, because you could end up burning the back of your hand. If you're going to handle it that way, or if you're not sure, or if you're demonstrating to people who it's the first time, then glove up to do that job. Okay? But allow the fire to build, and you can check by just glancing over the top as it's burning. See you've got a flame in there. Once you've got the kettle bit on, you feed it down the chimney, and to do that you bring in the stick that you've got from one end, so you can place it like that, and then you can just tip it down inside the kettle. So you're not going to put your hand anywhere near the fiery bit. Okay, you can bring your stick from the end, drop it into the kettle. Okay, take your stick, bring it in, drop it in the kettle. And what you should find ultimately is eventually those sticks will catch and start to burn. But as with all fire lighting, there's a little bit of skill involved, but a lot of luck as well. Okay? Because I know this stuff's pretty well dried out and well prepared, I'm pretty confident I can just keep dropping these down the chimney until I can start seeing the flames emerge, which you can see there now. And what you should find that within a few moments, the noises start to happen and start coming out of the kettle. Those noises are the thing itself expanding, but also the water starting to heat up. And now I'm going from what I had before, which were like pencil thickness, I'm going now to sort of little finger thickness sticks. And I'll drop a few of those in as well, just to keep the thing chugging away. But I'm just probably going to stop at that. I'm not going to overload it. I don't want things sticking out the top, there's no need for that. Okay, and this should take its time, but eventually it will pick up and we'll end up with hot water, which we need to make a drink. So I'm going to just step back and relax for a moment. Okay. And I just wanted to remind you all at this stage about fire lighting and fire lighting on your sites, because all sort of property now is owned by someone. Okay, you will need permission to light your fire wherever you do it. Even if you're in the middle of nowhere and you think it's a safe place to get away with it, you are actually breaking the rules. Okay, and what we need to be very mindful of, particularly in our forest school programs, is that we do things proper and by the book. So I've asked permission from the head teacher here at the school, and they're happy for us to have fire down here in their woods. You need to do the same when you're doing this. Even a Kelly kettle, treat it as a fire. Treat it as any other fire that you would have in your settings. And also some of your sites might be under restrictions, under fire restrictions, so you might even have to call fire control, are the people who distribute the fire engines, the actual people that come to put fires out, and just to warn them that on site today you're going to be having a fire, there might be smoke emerging. It's all under control. I'm forest school trained, but equally at the end of it, when it's all done and dusted, I'll give you another call just to let you know what we're all going to do. And some people will insist on that, some authorities will insist on that. It just depends really. It comes down to where you are and who you're working with. Okay? We don't like that here at Sunnybrow, we don't need that. I'm just going to take a little step back from the kettle while it heats through. It won't be long now. As you can see, it's pretty self-contained, it's doing its job quite nicely. Okay? What we do end up with is a kind of moment when everyone goes, ah, it's boiling, and water starts to chug out. And I've seen people occasionally get so excited that they go and grab it and lift it off without thinking about the health and safety. So as it does that, I'll go through a process with you to show you the safest way of getting the thing off to keep yourself in good order. But pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, that is lighting your Storm Kettle. No big dramas. Prepare your kit well. Okay, give yourself plenty of time to do it. Make sure you've got your health and safety gear around you, and there'll be no big deals. Anyone got any questions before we? Yeah.
I missed you putting the water in. I take it you just poured it in the.
Yeah. So when you see the water come out in a moment, it's just like the spout of any kettle, and I'll pour the water in from a jerry can. You know.
So it's hollow, isn't it, in the middle?
Yeah. So if you can
It's
imagine.
not what I imagined it to look like.
Yeah. So if you imagine like a thermos flask, it's got like a void, hasn't it, around the hot liquid to keep it warm.
Yeah.
So what we're doing really the flames are rising up in the inside of the thermos flask, and the jacket is full of water, and that's what heats up, and that's how effective they are. You know, they are quite an old thing. They're over 100 years old. This design. You know, allegedly, it were an Irish fisherman's gadget taken down to the coast or down to the lake, and that can brew up, and that can pretty much burn anything on there. You know, you could burn animal dung if it was dried out. You could burn peat on there. There you go. There's the kettle boiling. So at this point, you can imagine that I'm excited. What can it do? It might explode. It didn't do anything other than bubbling out. And the worst case scenario is it puts out the fire underneath. But what we're going to do is we're going to glove up with our gauntlets, and we'll go in and we'll pick the thing off, like I showed you how we put it on. Up, take it to the side and put it down. And at that point, you can lift it then like a bucket, and you can pour out the hot water. I'm just going to address this little stick down here. Because I've got my gloves on, I can afford to do that. Pop it back in there, and just let that burn out naturally. Okay, if you're in a rush, you could tip the thing out onto the floor and quench it, but please don't just pour hot water onto there, because it'll distort the base. The base will get all twisted and bent, and it will damage the actual thing itself. To get the water out of these things, there's a nice little technique you can use. You can actually take the stopper on the end of the chain, lift the thing up like you would a bucket, take the chain, and you can just pull on the chain, and out comes the water. Yeah. So I'll do that over here as well. You can just hold the thing, pull on the chain, and out comes the water. And that's boiling water. You can make your brews with that. You can do your dishes with that. You can fill your hot water bottles if you're camping with it. Anything you like. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much the whole deal with your Storm. Obviously, because they're hot, if you're going to have young people around particularly, you want to designate a space to put this thing so no one comes and just trips over it or touches it, not knowing it's hot. Any more questions? Is that fairly cool? Happy with that? Great. Thank you for sitting in and listening.